Good.
All right, we'll just give the cameras in the back just a second. You guys good? All right, Coach, whenever you're ready.
Okay, guys, we really good day's work. Really proud of the team. In particular, yesterday and today, I thought across the board, some urgency there. The detail is there. I see effort, and certainly excited about the challenge and the opportunity that comes with playing a really talented Texas A&M team. So, I think our players have an opportunity every day to write a page in the chapter, in a chapter in the book, this 2022 team and what it's going to be about, right? And I think adversity sometimes gives you an opportunity to really prove what you're made of, right? It can help you refine and develop your character. So, just really challenging our guys to be the best teammate they can be, to do all the little things right. Let's no shortcuts here, right? Let's really follow through in the little things. Effort is non-negotiable. And I think that having the best attitude that we can have and focusing on what's next, right? And I think good night's rest tonight, show up and clean the tape up tomorrow, really make the most of Thursday and Friday and get ready to go play a game at Texas A&M. So what questions we got here?
We'll open up with Nick Delatorre.
Billy, on that note, the urgency with Breton being gone and some guys being dinged up, do you see a sense of urgency for guys that maybe are going to get some more opportunities this week?
Yeah, without question. I think they've embraced that, are excited for that. And, truth be known, at that position, we've been rotating players, sharing that workload for quite a long time. So those guys have played some. Their snap count will obviously increase, and I know they're excited and looking forward to that.
Keon being hurt with Jonathan Odom, you play a lot of two tight end sets. Has he shown that he's ready to step in and kind of play those same kind of snaps?
John is a very bright young man, and certainly is a guy that I think is well prepared. We see him every day. He's one of those guys that, much like maybe AP and Lloyd and those guys, he's excited about getting an opportunity to have a role in the game. So he's had a good week's practice, and I know he's excited about, contributing to the team.
Billy, have you been able to, you've lost a couple games in a row here, have you been able to emotionally put that behind you and just focus in on what's ahead?
Yeah, no, I think, truth be known, these present the best opportunities. I think, because I think the players' awareness level is heightened. They're much more in tune to the impact of making a mistake. My mental error, my, miscommunication, my misalignment, bad decision making, whatever the case may be. I think it really causes you to evaluate the game closely, and it presents opportunity, right, to learn, to grow, to adapt. I think they've taken the right approach in that regard. So, again, it goes back to what I said earlier, right? We're going to focus on what's next and maximize all these experiences that we've had for the better.
Kane, how do you keep him from being a factor on offense and even in special teams? Do you consider even not kicking to him, or how do you deal with that?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. And when you talk about defending this group, he's certainly at the top of that list. He's plays the majority of the game. He's got elite track, Olympic track speed. He's a one-play touchdown player. So it's a big part of the puzzle here when you start talking about defending this group. So I think it's a great question, and certainly the strategy relative to covering kicks is part of that.
Billy, when you look at, much was made of the 2022 class of Jimbos, and you look in Wegman is now making contributions. Stewart leads them in receive, and they have 3 D linemen who are contributing a lot.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see in that group, and is it rare to see that many kind of first-year guys to impact the way they are?
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of players that are contributing as young players for them. Defensive line, obviously I'm watching that tape the majority of the week. But, no, I think it's, you know, to me, I sit around and think about it, that's a good thing, right? Because rookies can impact your team, right? So there's no question. They evaluated well, they recruited well, and those players they were mid-year players, and they've made the most of their the competition there, and they've got a role in their team for sure.
Much has been made of the impact of NIL on bringing that class in, whether it did or didn't, but certainly had some influence. What have you learned about NIL in this 16-month period? I know it's just a piece of the puzzle.
Right.
We've discussed that a lot. But what have you learned? How have you adjusted? What do you anticipate? I mean, it's going to continue to change, obviously, too.
No, it's you know, I think that what a year to get a head coaching job at this level, right? I mean, you got the portal opens up and NIL starts, you know, a new era relative to just completely changes the game, right? I mean, all the things that, you know, maybe were a part of your recruiting strategy, you know, this has shifted the landscape in a huge fashion. I mean, so I think it's very fluid, right? I think that state law, NCAA compliance, right? Enforcement, you know, what are the rules to the game, right? I mean, it's almost, I've said this before at one point there, and still, I think it's almost like living in a land with no laws, you know, relative to what can you do, what can't you do. And then certainly some schools have more resources than others to some degree. So, you know, I do think that I've said it vocally. I think at the University of Florida, it can and will be a strength. I think it is a strength, truth be known. So, you know, with the state that we live in, you know, with 21 million people, we've got 470,000 living alumni. I mean, we have, you know, economies that are nearby that are huge. You know, I think the Gator fan base in particular in this state is right up there with some of the NFL franchises. So very capable in that area. I think, and our guys are benefiting from that currently, and I think they'll just continue to grow as there's more awareness. We're equipped with that. We're equipped for that, for what's to come through GatorMade. I really believe that. We've got in-house advisement there to really educate and equip our players, help them make good decisions. No one wants to talk about the negatives here. There's a lot of people trying to take advantage of young people in terms of representation and a lot of legalities. So, you know, you guys are well informed, right? I mean, this has become unprecedented, you know, relative to the impact of changing your roster in a hurry. And Texas A&M is a great example of that.
Uniformity critical, you think?
Yeah, I think most coaches would tell you, you know, it's like going to play pickup basketball and, you know, nobody explains the rules before the game, you know what I mean? So I think most coaches would say, hey, look, let's create some balance here, you know, in terms of opportunity and parity. You know, I do think you're going to see, you know, you're going to see it become a little bit top heavy, in my opinion.
Transfer portal, you know, you had mentioned that earlier. Does the transfer portal affect the way you recruit as far as numbers? Because I know you want to get a foundation of kids that you're going to develop, but does it affect the numbers, for example, that you're going to recruit?
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. I mean, I got asked about that today. You know, every team's got its own little math problem relative to the 85 scholarship limit, you know, the walk-on roster that you have. Initials are no longer a part of that, right? So it's kind of like a new world we're living in, right? You can, you're going to have a certain level of attrition because there's an opportunity to add players to your team, right? So I think the right combination of freshmen and transfer players, I think each position group on your team is different. Sometimes you got an immediate need, much like in the NFL. Maybe, you know, you go to free agency to acquire an impact player, a more experienced player, a veteran player. This is much like the draft and free agency. You know, the issue here is that there's no contract for any player in the league, right? and there's no salary pool for each team, right? So you got a really strange dynamic here that I think, like Edgar mentioned, we're looking for some uniformity here.
Has Justin Shorter practiced at all this week or no? Or?
Minimal, yeah, minimal. Hamstring, questionable at this point. You know, we'll see where he's at tomorrow. He's done some things, but been modified. You know, it'll probably be a game time decision.
You guys have had games where you've gotten off to quick starts, and Georgia, I guess, was maybe kind of the exception of the season. But how do you get back to that, or how important is that to kind of get back to that in this game?
You know, I think analytics would tell you that starting fast is extremely important. You know, any level of football, getting off to a quick start relative to momentum in the game, and certainly just a fast start in general. So I think you're spot on there. It's always a point of emphasis for us. And certainly when you go play on the road, I think it's even more imperative.
Coach, you guys are averaging just under a tick of 6 yards per carry. A&M gives up 4.8. How critical is it to run the ball, especially in an opponent's house, and take away the crowd, take away their atmosphere?
Yeah, no, I think it's always important, you know, in our formula to have the ability to have balance, you know. I think we want to be able to rush the ball to win the game. We want to be able to throw the ball to win the game. I think each week's a little bit different relative to the matchups, but developing your team in the long term when you've got a vision for the brand of ball you want your team to play, I think having a practice environment where there is fundamentals, there's line of scrimmage play, there's edge play, rushing the balls, and really stopping the run. They're both very important. They'll be very important this week.
Devin Moore tweeted today that he had a successful surgery. Just is there any update on his status for the remainder of the year? And what's going on?
Yeah, no, Devin is, I think we listed him as out. Devin had a shoulder, and truth be known, this was an injury that, you know, he had when he arrived, right? It was uncovered during the first few weeks of the season. He showed great toughness. He played with it for a little while, and then it just got to a point where he's not been able to participate. So Devin had surgery today, and certainly will be out. And we're hopeful that we'll have him back for off-season program and spring practice.
Time for one more, Zach.
Similarly with Keon Zipper, I think he had just temporarily shared something on social media about potentially being out long-term. Could you confirm that as well?
Yeah, no, Keon, I don't know where that got blown out of. That's wild. Yeah. No, Keon's got a little bit of a knee, nothing long-term there. It's very much to be determined, you know, based off of his rehab and recovery right now. We don't expect him to be available this weekend, but long-term, no issue there.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
All right, guys.